Face-to-face meetings can be a hard sell, but we are learning that it is a fantasy to think human beings can function effectively together when they are totally isolated. Time and again, organizations are learning that the most important part of the project is the upfront time spent working and socializing together. It is important for team members to get to know each other, to size each other up accurately, a task that is difficult, if not impossible, online. Not only do we need to have time to establish trust, but we also need to know more about each other in terms of personal strengths and weaknesses. For instance, which of your team members is easily crushed by criticism? This is important, because particularly if the criticism makes the employee clam up. Are any teammates devious, that is, likely to manipulate others in order to advance a hidden agenda? Who is power hungry? Who likes hand-holding? Who can I rely on for help in a crisis? Who can I trust with misgivings or personal concerns? These are examples of the information we gather automatically and intuitively when we work with people in an office setting. It is practically impossible to gather this type of information online, as it is most often communicated and learned through nonverbal cues, body language, and tone of voice. I have personally led virtual teams that included front-end FaceTime and those that did not. Developing trust and understanding through face-to-face meetings is the key factor in predicting long-term success. And frankly, I would refuse to lead any virtual team, no matter what the task, without sufficient front-end time. The next question we need to address is, how do we establish trust in virtual teams? First of all, team selection. Team selection is very important. Individuals who participate should not only bring a certain skill or knowledge to the team, of course, but they should be individuals who are comfortable sharing information and working with computers. They should also be people with personalities who can assert themselves in an electronic medium. Attitude. Attitude is also very important. Team members on successful virtual teams display eagerness, enthusiasm, and an action orientation. One pessimist, just one pessimist, has the potential to undermine the entire virtual team. Other helpful attitudes include proactive behavior, the ability to be empathic, and a positive tone. There are a number of techniques that can be used by virtual team leaders to help establish trust. Unless team members are working on a very short project or have worked together before and know each other, an initial face-to-face meeting is essential. Conducting a team orientation in this meeting is one of the most important steps to be taken. Leaders can introduce team members to each other and make sure they know why they've been selected and what particular skill or knowledge they bring to the team. Some type of team-building exercise can be built into this getting-to-know-you session, along with an overview of the team's task or mission. And next, clear and specific roles or assignments for each team member need to be set. The team leader can also provide guidance in developing team norms. Without agreed-upon norms, the stage is set for conflict. For instance, how soon to respond to a request for information? Now, that's an example of a norm of online behavior that needs to be established in the beginning. For instance, some individuals are in the habit of not responding to a request for information until they have all the data in hand. This can leave the inquirer hanging, asking himself, was the message received? Was it understood? Is the person being lazy? Are they ignoring me? A simple, immediate acknowledgement of the request would resolve that potential misunderstanding and consequent bad feelings. That's an example of a norm. Team members can come up with a list of norms and agreements about how the team will operate and how it will handle the technological aspects of the interactions. All of this should be written and stored in a shared database. It should be updated as work on the project creates new norms. This written document becomes actually extremely important, particularly when new members are added to the team. Explicit norms and expectations are also important when the team is a global one. Misunderstandings are to be expected when there are language and cultural differences. Proactive management can help reduce these potentially divisive conflicts. Norms of online behavior also include audio and video conference etiquette, outlining how work will be reviewed and discussing how meetings will be scheduled. Team leaders can also use this initial face-to-face session to decide which technologies the team will use and to discuss how and when members will communicate with each other, with the leader, with management. Decisions can be made regarding how the team's work will be managed, how information will be stored and shared, and who will review documents and how often. Procedures for dealing with inevitable conflict should be discussed. As a rule, interpersonal conflict between one member and another should not be aired electronically. One person should telephone the other, or the two should meet in person to resolve their differences. If the team has not met face-to-face, or the meeting was very brief, the initial electronic messages tend to be critical to the future success of the team. The initial messages set the tone for how the team members will interrelate throughout an entire project. For instance, if the leader establishes a rigid or authoritarian tone, it can imply that the leader is distrustful of the member's commitment or investment in the team. This can set the stage for low morale and grudging performance. It is difficult to create a trusting relationship after a tone of distrust is first established. A better beginning would be for individuals to introduce themselves online. A series of getting acquainted social messages in the beginning can help before the task is attempted. Again, the first messages tend to be critical. They need to be handled tactfully and carefully. You remember the old adage, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. This is particularly true in virtual teamwork. As an example of a network organization, I would like to discuss the International Technology and Training Corporation, or ITTC. The principals of the International Technology and Training Corporation in San Diego, California, have been very hard at work this past year, creating and incorporating the ITTC. In addition, we have prepared an initial public offering, or IPO, which will allow us shortly to raise funds through selected stock markets around the world. We are extremely excited, as you can imagine, about this venture opportunity offered by the multinational OITC organization. We will be providing more information through the site coordinators to you as we proceed. And you can learn more about the ITTC at its central website at www.ittconline.com. The mission of the ITTC has expanded considerably this last year. The ITTC is currently operating 3 sites, one for commerce, one for training, and one for education. Currently, the ITTC commercial enterprise has a prototype or demonstration website called www.intectra.com. The site is to be, when it is fully functional, a portal that is a doorway by which the ITC associates, yourselves, can access high-quality information and services. Many services will be offered directly to the ITC through the intectra.com site. These services will include international job placement, advanced training and technology, and financial information. Online follow-up sessions to these video conference broadcasts will be held on the integra.com site. There will also be an area on the site where associates can share their own personal or organizational websites, as well as advertise their goods and services to other associates in the network. Other services will be developed in response to the needs expressed by the OITC. The second ITTC website is www.onlinecompetence.com. Onlinecompetence.com is in development and will focus on competency-based online training in technology and information services. This site would supplement programs already being offered to associates and coordinators by the ITC video conferences. Currently, we are very close to finishing a series of programs on technology management, and we have begun programs on managerial excellence and risk management. OnlineCompetence.com will also serve as a clearinghouse or accrediting agency for other high-standard, competency-based training programs to be offered to the network. A third site, www.distanceeducatorinternational.com, the educational branch of ITTC, provides leadership, information, and support regarding the latest distance education policies, research, developments, and trends. In the medium term, it will become a delivery vehicle for international educational curricula and specific courses of interest to the ITC network. The ITTC is an excellent example of a networked organization that could not exist without the sophisticated communication technology now available. One of the major goals of the ITTC is to provide electronic connectivity to the worldwide ITC networks of associates, not just in Latin America and the Caribbean, but also in Egypt and India as well. You may remember an earlier conference in which I spoke of the virtual community as the key to a successful e-commerce venture. A virtual community is a group of individuals that may be scattered across the globe, but who have a similar interest and goals in some common area. Due to the advent of the Internet, for the first time ever, communities of interest can come together immediately and inexpensively online in order to exchange ideas and communicate with each other. The ITC is an example of a virtual community. The node or central leaders of the OITC virtual community, the coordinators, are key to the virtual network. Using Internet technology, the International Technology and Training Corporation will enable coordinators to become a virtual team. For the first time since the inception of the ITC video broadcasting approximately 12 years ago, the coordinators will now have the ability to share information directly amongst themselves. It has always been the goal of the OITC leadership that local organizations be encouraged and supported to be self-sufficient. To this end, the ITTC will create a secure and private intranet exclusively for use by coordinators. In addition, the ITTC will create a secure intranet for the ITC associates. Only registered associates will be able to access this intranet so that they will be able to exchange information, services, goods directly amongst yourselves. The ITTC has a significant advantage in the development of a networked organization. The basis for a virtual community and virtual teamwork has already been established. Many of you have demonstrated significant technical expertise in the tools of communication and information technology. Some of you have worked and socialized together in San Diego at OITC meetings and workshops over the years. You know each other's strengths very well. Considerable trust and understanding has developed as a consequence. the next natural step is to create something very important and meaningful out of these bonds. This is what we hope will come out of the ITTC venture, to provide an international community of individuals of like interests and goals with the capability of sharing ideas, information, goods, and services amongst themselves in a way that was not even dreamed about only a very short time ago. That is our goal. Well, I thank you very much for your attention, and now I look forward to speaking with you directly in response to your comments and questions. Thank you.
Let's begin with the first question and answer session. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Therefore, we ask that only one question be asked per phone call and that these questions be as brief as possible. You may call the studio directly at the phone number or fax which appear on your screen. We remind you to make your phone calls at a distance from the monitor to avoid feedback. The first question is from Medellin, Colombia. Go ahead.
Buenos días. Our question is as follows. Whether we like it or not, the mix of technology and economy means that more people have spend more and more time in cyberspace, not really circulating amongst other people, and so not having very much contact with others. So how do you develop this sense of belonging, this community spirit? Thank you.
Thank you. That's an excellent question, and one that I think we're struggling, honestly, to deal with. I think there is the potential for significant isolation. I think that organizations have to address it specifically in terms of creating more opportunities for face-to-face interaction, more meaningful human contact through either social events or general meetings on occasion. I don't think we can do away with the getting people together in the same place to form the kind of bonds that we need to function.
Our next question is from Ecuador. Please go ahead.
Greetings from Manta, Ecuador. We have this question for you. What is the treatment that a company has to give for the virtual negotiations and transparency when there is no face-to-face encounter? So how do you deal in a negotiation when you actually don't see the people?
And that's a hard question. We are increasing the ability to use electronic media to negotiate in terms of signatures and so on. I think that is improving. I'm not sure if I can say much more about that off the top of my head. Do you have a thought, Larry?
Well, you lose all the visual clues of evaluating is someone honest. And I know this is very important in Latin America, that you see and get to know and trust the individual, that they will be able to follow through.
I suppose with increased bandwidth, we can also expect that video communication would become possible in near future. I want to move to our next question from Puebla, Mexico. Please go ahead.
Today, you can study diploma courses, all kinds of courses via internet, and there are institutions, higher education institutions that have distance courses. What have been the factors, the key factors for these courses' success? And what are the institutions that have been in the leading position as far as successes in the distance education courses?
I would start with some of the keys to the success is that it takes a lot of time to do these. You need to use the multimedia videos and all the resources available to make them work well. Just taping a professor or broadcasting a professor lecturing doesn't capture or work as well with these. Also, if you can get the people together at the start and at the end, that enriches this experience, and they're very expensive to do well.
Let me add, too, that with my own experience and being an online professor for quite a while, you can't, as Dr. Rhyne suggested, you can't just take a normal course and put it online and expect it to work. It really has to truly be student-centered. We say that all the time, but it truly has to be student-centered. You have to increase the level of interactivity among the students and reduce your own role. And so it takes a reframing of how you view education, frankly. But I think the successful courses we're seeing are taking advantage, as Dr. Rhyne said, of the multiple media, but also increasing the interactivity amongst the students.
I would like to say that San Diego State University has some of the better online courses as far as distance education is concerned. I would like to move on to Panama. Go ahead with your question, please.
How can you attain synergy and trust in groups that are collaborating and working at a distance? What do you do with virtual teams that have different cultural backgrounds? How do you bridge that gap?
Excellent question.
Yeah, excellent question. And I think it really is all based on trust, and that's the basic for all human interaction is based on trust. And to develop trust online is extremely difficult, and you get one chance in the beginning, and if you're unsuccessful, you can't. So I always recommend that you meet together as people, and so that you can bridge some of the cultural gaps and create some understanding. If you're unable to do that, then you need to spend some time communicating in a social way online or however, or by video conference, to let people know who you are, what your background are, what your pet peeves are, your strengths, and so on, to create more of a personal interaction before you begin the business. Otherwise, the business will get bogged down very quickly in potential misunderstandings.
Great. From Panama, we are moving to Mexico. Go ahead, please.
Would like to ask Dr. Golden this question. Is there a way of visualizing or visioning in more detail these real examples within an e-organization before and after implementing those strategic changes? What would be the pre-mortem and the post-mortem visualization?
I'm not sure if I understand. Tell me a little bit more what you mean by the visualization.
We need to know more in detail how we can generate changes in a company, public or private or government, in a more detailed way. For instance, how it used to be, the before and after applying the changes in the organization to apply all these new infrastructure, these new strategies.
Well, I think you've got to do in the very beginning a survey of what technology you have available, what training would be required, what your needs are. I think you need to look at the comparable industries or institutions and see what successful programs are being undertaken. Meet with the visionaries within your own organization, the people who are extremely excited about progress. And that would be the beginning plan in brief. And then I think the follow-up, the post-mortem, as you say, is continual in this business. It is not, and it does not conform to the old model where pre and post. It is, your feedback needs to be continual from day one, day two, day three. And you have to be very flexible and light on your feet regarding changes you need to incorporate.
Great, thank you. We move now to Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. An essential element in order to attain the best effort is motivation, of course. For excellence, for attaining excellence, how would you suggest motivation? Positive reinforcement to celebrate and congratulate people for their good job. Celebrate maybe by having a donut together or just patting on the back. What other ideas do you have for motivation in virtual teams?
I have a suggestion on that. With the introduction of PCs, I've seen many people that did not want to go near them, but if you got them just to start working with it, many even mature people, once they begin working with it and seeing what it could do, they got motivated to learn more and to get more involved and got very excited about the technology. So I think you can motivate, partly you let them work on it alone where they don't have to worry about being embarrassed. And then as they gain more competence, they can get excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's exactly true. I can just relate a personal experience. Some 4 or 5 years ago, a university I taught for brought all of the computer illiterates, including myself, together in Las Vegas and put us in a room with computers and challenged us to destroy them. And, of course, we couldn't, no matter what we did. And many of us came away with a newfound confidence in the ability and enthusiasm and motivation to do the kind of things I'm doing now, quite honestly.
Our next question is from La Paz, Baja California Sur. Go ahead.
Buenos días. A greeting from the University of Baja California Sur. Our question is the following. If the face-to-face meeting is important, but also electronic messaging and communication via internet and electronic communication in general are very important, what should a company do when they are trying to improve their relationship with their employees?
I'm sorry. In terms of the virtual teamwork.
We've lost them.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I think we have lost Baja California.
Perdimos la señal.
Okay. Well,
sorry.
Let's move on. I guess we have lost that question. Our next question is from Monterrey, Mexico. Go ahead, please.
Buenos días.
Good morning. This question is directed to Dr. Golden. When we speak of technology, when do you think we will eliminate the keyboard? When do you think that we will have voice and video and communication between the virtual teams? And when do you think we're going to be doing without the keyboard?
Oh, I think it's possible now, and it's in development now, and I think it's very soon. I think that will be available. Of course, incorporation and widespread incorporation in an organization or internationally takes longer, but the technology is very, very possible and in development and currently available now.
Okay, very good. You're back to Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo. Go ahead, please.
María Bisonó, desde la Pontificia Universidad Católica Madre Maestra.
In Santo Domingo, what do you recommend for content administration or management in an overloading information world? The cooperation is based on sharing information, but when we grow, well, then this cooperation means that is diminished somewhat as far as the virtual teams. On the other hand, would you have some guidelines for us as far as how to distribute time in a workday? Because we have to constantly be in touch through technology, and that becomes an additional task, an additional thing to the other tasks that you have to do in a normal workday.
I'll say a few words, and then Dr. Rhyne probably has something to add too, but I think you've identified a tremendous problem, the information overload. It is so easy to communicate to so many people with one push of a button that workers or we ourselves are not awfully responsible sometimes in terms of what we transmit, and the potential for overload is very great. I think that we're learning how to use the technology, and I think we need to continue instruct our employees in the responsible use, what exactly needs to be shared and with whom, what sort of protocols that we need to establish in the very beginning when we are using any kind of distance communication so that you don't have the kind of problem that you're suggesting.
Ensenada, Baja California is our next stop. Go ahead, please.
Sí. Okay, la pregunta es,
Question is,
¿qué tan importante
how
es la
important
realización
is
único
realizing
virtual con el personal?
to have a virtual team and the staff, because the staff is the one that is in charge of these teams, and how do you actually, how does the productivity of these teams become apparent?
Oh, I think the productivity can become apparent fairly rapidly. I think the teams can achieve things with an economy that will be very quickly recognizable to your leadership. The ability to bring experts and managers immediately into a decision-making process who are scattered either within an organizational structure or outside of the region and country. I think the ability to do that quickly, to form those decisions and go to market with product and so on, I think those gains will become very quickly apparent to the leadership.